Okay, hello and welcome to today's session in the msdynamicsworld.com Spring 2014 BI and Reporting webcast series. I'm Jason Gumpert, and today we are here for a session on the future of Business Analyzer for Dynamics ERP. The session really got a tremendous response from our readers, so thanks to all of you for being here. We're really pleased to also have today's speakers, Product Management Director Errol Schoenfish and Senior Program Manager Brian Meier from the Microsoft Dynamics ERP team joining us today for the event. As we get started, I just want to add that we invite you to ask your questions during the event. You can use the Q&A block or the chat that you'll see on the right side of the webcast session here. Q&A is probably the best place to get your questions answered. We will leave some time at the end for our speakers to answer your questions. So without further delay, please allow me to welcome Errol Schoenfish and Brian Meier. Errol, are you there?
I am. Thanks, Jason. Hopefully everybody can hear me okay. It's a pleasure to be here. As Jason mentioned, my name is Errol Schoenfish. I am in the product marketing team, worldwide product marketing team for our SMB products, which is Dynamics GP, NAV, and SL. And we've had amazing response from the Business Analyzer, both from customers. We are going to talk both about sort of the present future of the Business Analyzer. So for those who have not seen this product, we are going to talk about sort of the present a little bit also, but obviously do want to talk about the future. And as Jason mentioned also, please feel free to use the Q&A to type in your questions, and we should have time during the session to work on those questions. So just to kind of set this up a little bit, I thought I would talk a little bit about our overall strategy as it relates to what's happening in the marketplace, specifically around what we call at Microsoft the 4 megatrends of mobility, social, cloud, and big data. Now, there's lots of information up on this slide, but I actually want to point you to a couple of things. First of all, the very first left-hand slide where it says 70% of the CIOs see mobile as the most disruptive technology over the next decade. And when we talk about mobile, it's important to talk in multiple form factors, not just phone, but also in tablet form factors and probably some form factors that we haven't yet dreamed of. But the idea of the information sort of no matter where you are as a result of the ability to be connected in a cloud-based world is something that organizations are obviously really excited and concerned about. But the challenge that we have, if you go to the far right, the percentage of time that is spent on productivity apps on a mobile phone device versus on games is pretty dramatic. You see there. So basically 2% of the time that you're on your mobile phone, you're working on productivity apps, and 32% of the time you're playing games. And so what we're attempting to do through Business Analyzer and through other apps is, hopefully for those CIOs of the world, really ramp that up so that organizations have the tools so that they can become more productive instead of simply using their mobile phones to play games. And how that relates to our overall vision, we're going to talk a little bit specifically about Dynamics GP, but this definitely relates to our other ERP products also, is that, sort of at the top level, it's the, the bring your own device kind of thought that this plays into, but obviously the idea that tablet, phone are, two types of devices that are on the huge uptick, and people are getting, more and more used to the idea of there's an app for that, and as a result are being very receptive to an app like Business Analyzer that exposes information from the ERP solution. And so, the sort of the technology that Brian will talk about a little bit later underneath all of this, services and thus being delivered through the cloud, it allows people to use those devices with great apps to get access to information. It's, largely been housed in the ERP solution and give it to all people within the organization. So this allows you to be more sticky with those customers that you're interacting with. Business Analyzer itself, again, really allows you to connect to that ERP information and do it in a way that people can very easily consume it. And, if you think of just giving access to an ERP solution, you don't always want to do that, right? There's certain people within the organization, some sales, some marketing, executive levels, where they just simply want a quick in and out. I want to go see something. I want to view it a certain way, and I want to get done. I want to get out and, go on to the rest of my job. And so giving them access to an ERP solution doesn't always, kind of the full, desktop type environment doesn't really solve their problem. And so that's what Business Analyzer is really designed to do. So at this point, I'll hand it over to Brian, and he's going to go through specifically things around Business Analyzer, and then also give you a demonstration of the solution. And then we're going to talk more about what the strategy going forward is around Business Analyzer. So, Brian?
Okay, thanks, Errol. Just 2 seconds about myself. Again, my name is Brian Meier. I'm a Senior Program Manager with the Dynamics GP product. And myself and my team are primarily responsible for business intelligence within the application and then also apps themselves. And as Errol mentioned, unless you're in the game app market, it's a little bit of a challenge getting those 2% numbers up a little bit. And so basically our challenge and our focus around business intelligence and around the Business Analyzer app is to increase that productivity so that's more familiar for people to be using apps throughout their business day rather than just playing games or watching movies on their off time. So with that, I'm going to dive into Business Analyzer. And Business Analyzer is available on the Windows 8 platform or 8.1, whichever you're running, and it's available for Dynamics GP, Dynamics AX, and SL. And so during the presentation today, I will try to be cognizant of where the differences are, because there are some differences between the ERP applications that you'll be using, so I'll try to point those out along the way. But basically, it is the same application for each of the ERP products. Basically, the differences underneath lie in the architecture of the service that you connect to. And so, again, I'll talk through those today during the presentation. Okay, so what is Business Analyzer? Basically, it comes down to 3 different key areas within the application itself. One is reporting content. So back to what Errol had said, as far as getting that ERP information out to your users on a daily basis, the time and place, and on the device that they need it. We use reporting services content, so SQL reporting services. That's available in either SharePoint mode or native mode. So reporting services allows you to configure in those 2 modes. We also bring in Excel content. Excel content can be Excel files that are on a network share, on a SharePoint site, or an Office 365 or SharePoint Online. If you're looking from a GP perspective, from an AX perspective, the content is coming from SQL analysis services and also from management reporter reports. So I'll show the demonstration of the demo data for Business Analyzer, and I'll cover the different areas based on the product that the ERP product that you'd be using. The devices, the current release of Business Analyzer is available on the Windows 8 tablet or PC. Again, when I say Windows 8, I'm just being generic, Windows 8 or 8.1. And then we also have a version of Business Analyzer that's available on the Windows 8 phone. So we get asked quite a bit, and there was already a question that came in as far as when will this be available on the iOS platform, and that's scheduled for Release 7. Errol will talk about the roadmap later in the presentation, but at the current time we're looking at the July timeframe to have Business Analyzer available on iOS, and then further down the line on Android devices. So Business Analyzer not only allows you to see reporting information from your ERP system, but also allows you to take action against those reports. So we call that, or deem that, actionable BI. In this case, we look at information on the report as far as when the report, the time, date stamp the report was rendered. We can view the report. So in the case of a SQL report, we can launch the browser and view the report in its native mode. In the case of Excel, we can view it in the Excel client or online. We can copy the context of the information that's available in Business Analyzer and share that and collaborate that information out to users within or outside your organization. We integrate with Lync. If you're using either Office 365 or Lync on-premise, we integrate with that. So again, easier collaboration with your coworkers. Edit allows you to edit the functionality or edit the reports that you're viewing, and then we also allow you to apply filters. So you can do such things as filter out different company information or do date time reporting. So with that, let me just hop right into Business Analyzer, and I'm going to start from the very beginning on how you get the app and what the experience is from the very beginning when you do the installation. So let me start my desktop here, just a second. And we're going to go to our Windows 8 Start screen and type in Store. Okay, so if you want to find Business Analyzer, again, just open up the store, type in Business Analyzer, and then it'll take you to the landing page for the app. Now in this case, it gives you a little bit of information about the application itself, gives you a few images that you can scroll through and get a flavor of what this application is going to look like. It also gives you some information at the bottom of what this application will do, and then rate on the right-hand side. So at this point, we have some good ratings, 3.7 out of 5. And then this, Errol had mentioned this prior as well, but we're getting some really good traction on this app. We've released, it's about a year since we released the app, a little more than a year, and we have close to 20,000 downloads from the store. So the app is getting good traction out there as far as usage and downloads. Okay, so now at this point, I've already got it installed on my PC, but if I decided to install this, I just basically, there'd be an install button here. I go ahead and click that, and the app installs. Now the app will install within probably about 30 seconds, so it's a pretty lightweight app to get installed. It's not a big process or hours or anything like that. It's about 30 seconds. So once I have the application installed on my desktop, it'll show up in either two places. If you're running Windows 8, obviously you'll have the tile. It might show up at the top, or if you're not finding it, make sure you just scroll down to the bottom of your start screen, and then you'll see it down there as well. Or you can just do a find by just typing in Business Analyzer to find the app. Okay, so now we've got the app tile, so we'll launch the app. And with the application, when you first install it, you have what's called a demo mode. So what we want to be very cognizant of is that we provide content that the users can go through and really see what this app can do before they decide to configure it. So the first thing I'll do is I'll walk through the application as you would see it when you download from the store, and provide information as far as the different content that's provided in the app itself. So when we launch the app, we can do a right click, or we can swipe from the top or the bottom to get the action and navigation bars to show up. We have a home action at the top, or home button. We have different roles. So by looking at the demo data, we have roles for accounting manager, CFO, and sales manager. And then we have different companies as well. So you can see we can look at different flavors of the data based on your role and company that you selected. So in this case, I can see that if I scroll over to the right a little bit, I can see in the upper right-hand corner that I'm running the Business Analyzer for the Contosta Entertainment Systems company, and I'm selected the role of CFO. So when you launch the app, we have what's called our landing page or hero screen. Now this is the information that we place on that screen will be most important to you in running your daily business. So you want to select the reports or add reports to the screen that you want to see when you first open the application. Now it is personalizable, so you can go into the application and say if I want to choose daily profit, I can simply drag that over to my starting page and I can chart, and that'll save that personalization when I close the app and reopen. It'll also change it when I change companies. So if maybe I'm a CFO in one company and another company I choose to look at the accounting manager role, it will save per company and per role. So you can personalize to your heart's content and always come back to that same information that you left off with. We can also drag and drop. So if I chose to take one of my KPIs and maybe restack it a little bit, I can do that. And we can also drag in new KPIs. So if I want to look at inventory instead of days outstanding, I can drop that in as well. So it's very easy to personalize the application. So the first part here is your landing screen. We can also get into a larger full view of the report that we're looking at. So simply by clicking on the gross profits daily report, I get the full screen. Now at this point, I have different options available as far as what chart type that I want to see. I can also view the data grid. So for the accountants on the phone call, we provide the actual numbers that you can see rather than just a picture of the chart itself. We also allow you to do different filters, so you can do weekly, monthly, whatever you choose to do as far as the time period you want to see your gross profits for. And then you can also slice and dice on the report legend as well. So you can filter the data that you want to see. Okay, going back to our home screen and sliding to our right, now we have what's called our charts area. And our charts area will be, in this case, I'm demonstrating Dynamics AX content. So this would be content that's coming from your AX cubes. In this case, it would be your financial cube. I can select if I want to add or remove any charts or charts from this section. I simply go to my charts gallery. And any of these charts I can get to full mode as well. So selecting the daily chart, again, it takes me to that full screen and I can go back. Sliding over, we have our KPIs. Again, the KPIs are taking information out of the sales cube in this example. And the KPIs are, again, more just a snapshot as far as where certain things are in your business. So in this case, I can look at daily sales outstanding. If I select the daily sales outstanding, what will happen, it'll launch that full view again, and then it'll take me to the report that's designated or associated with that KPI. Okay, and then sliding all the way over to the right, we have our last section in this example would be our report section. Our report section, this is our management report content for CFO. So in this case, I'm still running in demo mode, but we provide you examples of what this data might look like. Basically, what will happen in live mode is it will take you out to your management report or linked report, and it'll run in the management reporter viewer. So at that point, you have full access to navigate around within the report, drill down, drill out, and have full access to that reporting capability. Okay, so that's the content for the CFO. So let's switch roles and see what else we have. We've got, we'll switch companies, we'll go to Contoso Consulting. And now when I switch to Contoso Consulting, we see that we're switching over to the practice manager role, which you'll see in the upper right-hand corner. So the practice manager role is essentially bringing information or pulling information from the Dynamics AX project cubes. So same functionality where we have the hero page with the most used reports that you want to see, along with KPIs, sorting. Again, we can go into our charts and KPIs gallery and change that information if we choose to. And then we'll see that you have a new section added for the project manager, because the project manager is probably not as concerned about financial statements as they are about the projects. So what we've added is the project information coming into that section for that role, and we just select all projects in this case. So we're going back to the cube and bringing back a list of all the projects that are out there for this user. When we select, we get into the details page. So now we can see the details behind the actual project. We can see information about remaining effort, invoice amount, costs, who's on the management team. And then we can also communicate with the management team. So again, using integration with Link, or in this case, it could be really whatever communication device or application you have on your device. We can via a message, basically, we can call or we can email. So again, it keeps you connected with the people that would be associated with this project. And with selecting here, we'll go back to our home screen. And lastly, let's switch over to our accounting manager role. So our accounting manager role, this is where we're getting into more specific Dynamics GP information. And so you'll notice in this case the charts aren't as dynamically rendered as the AX information was. So there's kind of pros and cons to each one. Just to give you a little bit of architecture behind it, with the AX data, we're using or rendering what's called a high chart. And with the high chart, it's essentially bringing the data across as XML and rendering it on the fly. The nice thing about it is that it's very visual. It's very, it looks very good on the screen when things get rendered. The downside or the con of that type of report is that you can't personalize them. So let's switch to the GP side of things. So in this case, we're looking at a SQL report or SRS report. Now in this case, it's an image that's coming back after you render the report. So it doesn't have the flash, you might say, as far as being able to render the report on the fly or dynamically. But the pro of using an SRS content is that you can customize it. So you can customize the reports that we provide, or you can create your own reports as well and make them available within Business Analyzer. So two different sets of content, both have, you know, positives and negatives about them. We'll slide over, we see charts, we have our KPIs, so those sections are all the same, and in this case we have our report section. And then the report section, in this case, we're not looking at a financial statement, I'm looking at just an Excel file. So we've got, again, we've got sample data built within the sample app. We can come in, we can see we're actually launching an Excel spreadsheet. In this case, we can enable our content. And we can use great things, cool features within Excel 2015 as far as our date lights or our date pickers. You know, you can see now when I select my different dates, the information on my dashboard is automatically updated. So this is all available within the demo version of Business Analyzer. So again, a very easy way for you to download the app from the store, get very acquainted with the application, and then at that point when you're ready to start using it, we'll configure it. Okay, so that moves us into the next portion as far as how do you configure the application. So with Dynamics AX, you need to have a Azure Service Bus account or service enabled in order to connect back to the service or the data within the cubes. For Dynamics GP, you have to have what's called a companion application service installed. So let me switch back to the presentation. Okay. So just wanted to outline the companion application service before I start talking about it, just to give you a visual of what this actually does. So on the left-hand side, we have our application. Okay, so this is Business Analyzer running on your device. We have our firewall, and then behind the firewall, we have what's called our app service, or companion application service. And this is basically what the app is communicating with in order to make a call back, to make a request for data, and then send the data back. The companion application service enables you, and this is a Dynamics GP specific service. The service allows users to connect to different content they want to make visible within Business Analyzer. So for the R5 release, Business Analyzer R5 release, or Release 5, which came out in November, we have the ability to bring in SQL reporting services content, so that top box. With the R6 release, which should be out by next week, we've added additional content for Excel. And then with the R7 release, which we're looking at in the June-July timeframe, we'll add in additional content for Management Reporter. So bring in those financial reports. So that is a difference that you have between the different ERPs at this point. So with the Release 5 version, Dynamics AX had content from Cubes and also Management Reporter. Dynamics GP had content from SQL. And then with the R6 release, we'll be adding Excel and then Management Reporter after that. And then ultimately, all of your data is coming from your SQL database from your ERP system. So how do you get this? So we basically push this data out to, or make it available for download on partner or customer source. So I wanted to provide these slides, give you an idea of where you download this and what you do with the downloads. So here's a slide. I don't want to talk through it too much, just an idea of what each one of these files does. So that first file is our companion app service. So basically you install that on your server, and then I'll walk through how that looks, or that setup looks. The next one is our companion app services SSRS zip file. There are 3 SQL reporting services reports available in this download or this zip file. You'll need to take those 3 reports and upload them to either your report manager if you're configured SRS in native mode, or to your SharePoint site if you configured in SharePoint. And then the last download is just a PDF or a white paper that will allow you to read through the configuration and help you through the configuration process. So let me go back to sharing my desktop again, and then we'll look at the configuration service. Okay, so at this point, I'm making the assumption I went out to partner and customer source. I downloaded the companion app service, installed it on my server, and so this is what it looked like. I'll launch the app. In this case, I'm already configured, so I do have an endpoint located or designated in the app or the companion app service. We'll go forward. We'll choose next. If you're using the service bus, so if you're using Dynamics AX, the service bus is a requirement. But again, this companion app service would not be something you set up for AX. It's only available for GP. For AX, you essentially go through and create your own service using the Azure Service Bus. So what I'm about to show is just specific to Dynamics GP. So with Dynamics GP, we do enable you to have a choice as far as do you want to connect to the service bus or do you want to just connect directly to the companion app service. So in this case, I'm just going to connect directly to my companion app service, which is basically the more common approach that people will take. When we're connecting to the service, it is a secure connection, so we do require your certificate. I guess the best thing to do with this is you can create your own certificates, or I've heard from customers, especially at Convergence, is that it's a lot easier just to go out and go to a vendor and have them create the certificates for you. They said the cost is usually anywhere from $60 to a couple $100 depending on who you're using. But they said ultimately it's a couple $100 at most, and it's going to save a little bit of time in the process. So there's an option to create your own certificate or to go to a vendor and have one created for you. But once you have the certificate, you install their certificate, then it would appear in this drop box. And then you select next. Right now, the companion application service configurator has one app available in it. As we release more apps for Dynamics GP or for Dynamics in general, I guess in the case of Dynamics GP, additional apps will show up in this list. So as we move forward and looking at the timeline with the additional apps that we'll be releasing, those would show in here and basically allow you to configure to the applications that you have installed. Okay, so here's the connection or data connections. So this window would basically say what data do you want to present or make available within Business Analyzer. So at this point, with Release 5 or Release 6 coming out, we have Excel content and we have reporting services content. So you select the content that you want to make available. Now, this is something that's done on the server. This is done from the IT perspective or IT role that would handle this. The end users don't have to come in and handle this, okay? So this is a one-time thing that gets done on the server. The IT person designates what content you want to make available for your end users, and that's it, okay? So it's not a per-user thing that you have to do here. So I choose that I want to make available, and as more content becomes available for Business Analyzer, it just shows up as another checkbox on this window. Okay, so we'll select next, and in this case, it's asking for where our Excel content is being stored. Again, we can use SharePoint site on-premise, or SharePoint Online. SharePoint Online is your Office 365 environment. I've just chosen to do SharePoint on-premise. I enter the URL of my reporting library or my SharePoint library where my documents are being stored, and then the name of the document library, and select next. Now at this point, the companion application service is essentially going out to that location that you defined and validating to make sure the location is correct or valid. The next thing, once it goes through that validation process, it'll ask you where your reporting services content is located. Again, I'll just enter in the information I need, pointing out to my server. If you're running a multi-tenant environment, you would most likely select the subfolder and have what the folder name is for the tenant. And then if you're configured using SharePoint mode, you would enter the location for your SharePoint library where your reports are being stored. So if you're just using native mode and you don't have a multi-tenant environment, you essentially just come in and enter in the information for where your SQL reporting services server is located and select next. So again, we're just doing a quick validation to ensure that that location is correct. Now at this point, we've generated a service location or an endpoint that you can send to your users, your app users, that they will use to configure the app. So that's the next part. So we can come in here, we can do a copy, and at that point I could just launch an email and paste paste that information into an email and send it out to the users that are using Business Analyzer. So that's it for the configuration. So it goes through pretty quick. The longest step will be creating that certificate. Other than that, it's very quick to go through and designate where your content's being stored. Okay, so let's go back to Business Analyzer. And so now I've gone through the demo mode. I can say, okay, yeah, this is a great app. I want to install this. I want my end users to be using this, and I want to configure to a live environment to get my data showing up in the application. So you swipe from the right, and under Things, select Configuration. And in the configuration window, you'll see Sample Mode is turned on. You just select the toggle to turn it off. Enter your username and password. So this would be the individuals that are using the application itself. And then the service connection is that service connection or path that you would have sent them in an email. They can just copy and paste it into the service connection and select Connect. So you're using their credentials that they're logging basically into the domain or into their computer with. That's what they would use here in order to gain access to that content. Now, once the connection is made, you don't have to go in and select or reconfigure each time the app is opened. We store that securely, it's encrypted, and the users just have to enter that configuration information once. Now, one thing I will mention is that, let's just say, for instance, go out to the store, or you have at this point, and you've downloaded, you've installed, and you're using Release 5. In this case, when we come out with Release 6, users don't have to do anything in order to go and get that new information or new content showing up in the application. Essentially what happens is that the IT person will go out, grab the updated companion application services, install that on for the update. Again, when you walk through the update then or updated service, you'll see that Excel becomes an selectable checkbox for content. You select Excel. The IT person will designate where that Excel content is being stored. And then once that is saved, the next time the users open up the application, it'll just say something has changed in your service. Do you want to update? They just select OK. And at that point, they've got Excel content within Business Analyzer. So it's, once they've installed it and once they've configured it, they're done. They don't have to redo anything when updates come out. Okay, so now at this point, I've gone through and I've basically configured my app and I've selected the reports that I want to see or the content I want to see within my app. So in this case, from a GP perspective, I configured to the GP service. I can see I've got my sales territory chart. I've got 3 KPIs on the right-hand side on my start screen. As we scroll across, we've got our charts and KPI section. Go into our charts, and now we can see here are all the live charts that are available for me as the user. Now, from a security standpoint, what we're doing is we're passing in those credentials that the user had entered when they configured the app. We make a call out to the location that was based on what was done in your configuration, and we determine what the user has security access based on their Windows credentials. So at this point, if I go out to that location and I only had access to 3 reports that were sitting out there, I only see the reports I have security access to. In this case, I've got security access to all the reports on that site. It can be a little overwhelming to find a report if you've got several hundred reports on that location. So what we've done is we've added filters. So it makes it easy to say if I want to just slice it down and look at reports that are associated with sales, it's easy for me to go in and see a sublist of all the reports that are relating to sales. And you can see from the category equals sales, that's how we're placing our filter on the reports. Again, a very easy way for an end user to go in and basically filter down what they're looking for. So if I want to add or remove reports, it's simply just select or deselect the report and then go back to my home screen and I'll see the new report on my chart section, for example. KPIs would be the same thing. When I select add, I can see I've got a few more KPIs that are available for me as an end user. I can select or deselect the KPIs I choose. Now we also see we've got this reports content. In this case, this is live data now instead of just a sample data. So if I wanted to go in and look at my customer balances report, it'll go out to the SharePoint site where the reports are being stored, launches the report in Excel, and now at this point we have a live Excel report. The Excel report, we have over 250 Excel reports that we make available in Dynamics GP that you can customize, add charts to if you choose to. And the nice thing these reports is that they're all refreshable. So if I hit delete, for example, and then come back and refresh my data, we're making a connection back to the SQL database. Again, based on your credentials, we'll make a connection back to the database and refresh the data. So in this case, I've got a chart. I'm just filtering out my content based on customers that have balance over $50,000. So that will always change. You know, that's not always a static list of customers over $50,000. So each time I view this report and select refresh, it's always going to bring in the latest content or show me the numbers that are over $50,000 at that point in time. Again, very great tool for end users that love to be in Excel, which 100% I would safely say people use Excel on a daily basis. So you can put Excel content in right within Business Analyzer and make it available to your end users. Again, this is all personalizable, so I can go into Add, and I can see these are the different Excel reports that are available for me. I can go in and I can open the Excel file just like I've showed. If I make some edits to the file and save it back to that SharePoint site, those edits become available to me here. So I can basically use the Business Analyzer as a hub for all my reporting content to launch and do things with, and make it a quick, easy process to navigate around and make some quick business decisions based on the information that's important to me on a daily basis. Okay, so before we talked about, that's the content. So a few minutes ago I talked about the actionable BI and what you can do with the reports themselves. So we'll launch the report and we'll go into the full view. And when I swipe from the top or bottom or do a right click, again, we can see we've got our home button, and we can see we've got our different companies that we can choose from at the top. At the bottom, we have our actions for the report. So we'll walk through those real quick. The information is basically a timestamp of when the report was rendered, date timestamp for the report. This is important because then you always know what you're making the decision off of. You know, are you making the decision based on content that was a week old or 2 minutes old? So it's very important to allow users to go, enable users to go in and basically see the content of, and how fresh that data is. We copy the report. Basically, this is just taking the report, copying it to my clipboard. We can also do, in a Windows 8.1 environment, we can also share. And then share, I can send it to email, Windows Phone, Facebook, whatever the case might be. Basically, all the devices or applications that integrate with Windows 8.1 will be available in your right-hand side when I swipe over from the right. So I can enter an email. If I want to do an email, it launches the email information and inserts the information or chart right into that email and sends it off to the user. So it's an easy way to either copy and create my own PowerPoint and paste in the copy of the chart I want to see, or I can communicate directly with other users when I'm using 8.1. We have link functionality again, so this is allowing me to collaborate with other users. I'll get rid of that conversation. We'll try another one. Yeah. Here. But essentially, here we go. So in this case, I can select from the people that I want to communicate with. So if in this case, if I'm looking at a sales information, I can dial up Errol here on my link or communications, and then I can start having this collaborative session with Errol regarding my sales chart. We can also split the screen on this. So again, it's very easy for me to work along with Errol to see, okay, we can share the same screen and collaborate and look through the different information that's available on the report. So very nice feature as far as collaboration is concerned. We've got a view. So the view action, essentially what it will do is launch your browser and make the full version of that report available. So you notice that the parameters weren't showing up. They would have a few parameters that we show on the report as far as a date selection, for example, or company selection. But when you're launching the full report in your browser, again, by selecting view, any parameters that are available for the user, any visible parameters will show up at the top of the report. So the end user is enabled to go in, view the report, and work and filter the report based on different parameters that are available to them. We can also drill in. So the nice thing about our SQL Reporting Services reports is that we have a detailed report behind each and every chart or KPI we show. So in this case, if I selected the state of Minnesota for my map, when I drill in, now I can see all the customers or the sales data that made up the the state of Minnesota, for example. So I can see I've got roughly $466,000 of sales within the state of Minnesota. So again, it's starting with something very visual and then getting in detail information. If I've got Dynamics GP launched on my computer and I'm logged into the company that I'm viewing information for, I can also drill back. So in this case, I don't have it installed, but we could drill back on the customer name or the salesperson ID in this case. It would launch the window within Dynamics GP associated with this customer, return their customer record, and make that information available. So really the sky's the limit as far as starting with something visual and getting all the way back into the ERP application if you choose to go that route. The reports, again, are reporting services or SQL in this case, so these can all be edited. So we'll come down and our next button is to edit. So the edit view will open up Reporting Services Report Builder. And I'll just mention that the first time you select edit, it will want to go and download the app or the Report Builder app. In that case, it takes maybe 30 seconds for the app to install. And at that point, you have full functionality as far as edit each time you go into the Business Analyzer. So in this case, if I go into my map, I can make changes. If I want to change the color page or whatever the case may be. Let me work with a different one. Maps are a little bit tough sometimes. So let me select a different chart here. Be a little easier to understand. Maps have different layers to work with. So let me grab a different chart here. So that'll load up Report Builder 3.0, and then it'll retrieve that report that we're working with within Business Analyzer. So again, this is a very simple example, but gives you an idea of what you can do. So I'll go in and maybe I just want to change from a green fill to blue. And I'll just select OK and save the change. The one thing I'll note is that if the end user that's using the Business Analyzer does not have security permissions to edit reports, then that edit action won't be available. So we're not providing anybody the ability to edit if they don't have edit capability. Okay, so I'll come back into the chart, hit refresh, and now you can see my changes are there and available as soon as I hit refresh. And it's a very simple example, but gives you an idea that you can go in and as far as whatever your technical savvy is, I guess, as far as editing and creating reports, what you can do in Report Builder, basically just go make your edits, save the report, and then come back and hit refresh. There are a couple different other actions that are available on other reports. Let me see if I can grab a different report here. And looking at customer sales or sales per month in the last 12 months. Here we can also, when we swipe up from the bottom, we can see we also have a date parameter. So this allows me to do date and time reporting or date reporting. In this case, if I want to change that to maybe May or August or whatever the case might be, I can simply select the date, hit apply, and it updates that report parameter. Now, the next time I refresh or I come back into Business Analyzer, the report's going to default back to the system date in this case. But again, it allows me to go in and do some date-specific reporting if I choose to do that. Okay, so that's the actionable BI for Business Analyzer. So in this case, we've covered the start screen or the hero screen, which allows you to go in and customize or personalize the screen that you want to see when you first launch the application. You've got the ability to drag and drop, restack, whatever the case might be. Again, we've got that same functionality as far as reordering how many charts or what order I want to see my charts in. So if I had, a lot of these charts might not make a whole lot of sense, but if I'm just going to add a bunch more charts here, I can come in and I can reorder those charts in the fashion I want to see them on the screen. Same with KPIs, and likewise with my reports as well. So in this case, again, I can switch companies. When I switch to my Fabricam company, you can see at this point I don't have any content this window at all, and that's just because I haven't gone into this company to add it. By default, what we'll do is we'll go in and we'll automatically add content to the screens or to the pages based on the security access that you have. So when the user first opens the application, the configuration is done, what we do is we go back into the SQL and we look at the reporting role that user has been assigned to, and then each reporting role has a set number of default reports associated with it. And so if the user has security access to those default reports that are associated with a particular role that they've been associated with, then they show up automatically in Business Analyzer. So in this case, I don't have specific reports that are defaulting for me based on the report role that I've been assigned to. So in this case, I would basically start from scratch and go in and add my reports. So again, as I go in, I can customize it per company. If I go back to Contoso, now I can see that those are saved. So it's a very easy way to make modifications, skip between different companies, switch back, and be able to see the content that you left off of. Okay, so
Brian?
Yes.
There's some questions coming in that I didn't know how to answer.
Okay.
So I'm hoping that you could answer these. So the first one, and there's a number here regarding AX. So are the cubes running directly on top of the transactional data, or is there a data warehouse that they're using?
That I'm not sure about. I don't think they're running off of a data warehouse. That's an assumption at this point. We can follow up and see if there's somewhere we can take the responses to the questions and post the answers. Basically, what I got involved with what the services were to connect to AX. Once you get into AX, then I'm not sure about the structure of the code.
Okay. So we don't know the answer to that one. Maybe you know what this question refers to, and I didn't catch it right away, but Jenny asked, what about DSL?
What about DSL?
So maybe, Jenny, you're going to have to restate that question. It was probably at a point in time when you were talking, I'm assuming. And so, okay, well, Jenny, could you re-ask that question?
Okay.
Spell out DSL. Somebody had a situation where they have separate reporting servers and need to set up Kerberos authentication. Oh, good. I'm glad that you're nodding your head. And so recommendations on that.
Okay. Not an expert on Kerberos, but basically what you do, I know there's some support documentation or white papers available online. So if you have access to MSDN, or if you just do a Bing search, and there's going to be documentation white papers available for it.
Okay.
Usually it's a process that people can go through and set up themselves. Basically you're making calls between different servers, and you basically need to pass those credentials across to the different servers. And so, yeah, if you just do a search online for it, there's plenty of documentation and white papers as far as how to handle that.
Okay. They did say that it looks like there's several approaches to do it.
Yeah.
So we don't have a specific recommendation.
Right, right.
Okay. And then Paul asked about the configuration for AX. So kind of, could you sort of describe what the configuration is for AX? Okay.
Again, there's a paper available for that. The configuration is a little bit longer than the configuration for GP because AX does require, it is a requirement that you go through the Azure Service Bus for Dynamics AX. So you basically need to get an Azure account set up a service bus. Again, there's a white paper that talks to how to technically do that better than I could. I just have a general understanding of what is required.
Yep.
But I would, again, point you to the white paper. If you download the application from the store and then you go to help files, there's going to be a link in the help file that will take you out. If you look for technical support or learn how to, if you select those from the app, again, this is available in the demo mode or live mode, whichever. You select the help files, and then it takes you a link to a white paper that specifically talks about how to configure through the Azure Service Bus.
Okay. All right. How about are Excel reports available for AX?
Excel content is not available for AX at this time. Basically what we need to do is we need to update the services for AX in order for that content to come across. So I'll just kind of recap what's available for each ERP. So for the AX perspective, you have SQL Analysis Services Cubes. We're looking at Financial Cubes for the CFO role and the Project Cube for the Practice Manager role. And then they also have Management Reporter content, so your financial reporting. That's AX. For the GP side, for the R5 release, which you can download today in the market, we have SQL reporting services content available. And then for the R6 release, which should be out within the next week here, we'll provide Excel content as well. And then MR content or management reporter content for Dynamics GP is scheduled with the R7 release. We're currently working on that, and it looks like it's going to be the late June, early July timeframe for that.
Okay. How about, there was a question about managing the charts that are available for AX. So of the high charts that are there, how do you manage them?
Okay, so that goes back to where it says kind of pros and cons to the different content that's displayed within the app itself. So with AX, it's using the high chart control. Again, those charts are all predefined. So you need to, it's a developer experience to go in and modify that. It's nothing that most end users can do. So basically those are predefined for AX. I think there's 18 total charts that are available for the AX roles, and then, or for the practice manager role, and then several reports as well for the CFO. Now, one thing with AX is if you're using management reporter, then with the CFO role, then you can create your new reports in management reporter, and then those show up in the app itself. So if you're looking at the visual charts, those are predefined. If you're looking at management reporter, then you can create green ones in there and modify it.
Okay. These charts and reports are very nice.
Good.
What amount? What amount of SQL scripting is necessary to create them?
Okay, so the reports can be really as complex as you want to make them. So with Dynamics GP, we have about 250 reports that you can deploy when you install Dynamics GP. You can use those reports, you can modify those reports to make them, fit your organization better. So the first thing I would do is encourage you to use the reports that we make available for you and modify those. It's going to be a little bit easier process. If you want it from scratch or even add additional data to our reports, essentially what you do is you open up Report Builder, you define the data source, which we provide the data sources for, and then in the data source, you create your data set. For instance, your data source might be the World on or Fabricam, and so that's the data source. And then your data set, what content do you want to see within that data source? So maybe I just want to look at information from customers. So my data set might be select star from my customer's view or something like that. But at that point, it's just a matter of laying out the report. So it can be very straightforward. It can be complex. If you choose to make a very complex report, you can create them in Visual Studio and save those out to your native reporting manager site or SharePoint site, whichever you've chosen to do. But really, it can be it's kind of a different question because it can be very easy and it can be very complex. So it's just really a matter of the comfort level that you have with reporting services. Any report that you create using reporting services will be available to view within Business Analyzer.
And then there was a question about SL. So is there some type of companion app service for SL also? Question mark?
Yeah, that'd be a question mark. I would have to get back on that.
Oh, you don't know?
That's the question mark.
Come on.
I know. The companion application really works for GP and SL is very, very, very similar as far as how the data flows through, how the, using SRS and so forth. So I would have to confirm that and get back to that question, but my initial response was it'd be very similar to GP.
And at this time, are you aware of any plans for NAV?
NAV at this point, we had discussions with the product team, and they were very interested in the Excel content coming into NAV or into the Business Analyzer. So at this point, there's nothing on the roadmap for NAV, but we continue to have those discussions to see at what point can we bring the NAV product into the Business Analyzer.
And do you know sort of what's available then for us since we're using SRS? So is that right?
Yeah.
So basically,
really,
anything that's pre-built from SL is available, and then you can modify anything to your hardware.
Correct. Yeah. So it's exactly the same as a GP experience that I demoed today.
So somebody has VA on their tablet now. Can I upgrade to version 6 next week, or do I need to reinstall?
What will happen when version 6 comes out is you'll get a notification just with, like in your app, that there's an update available, and then you select to do the update.
So it keeps the information out there.
Exactly. So it'll keep that configuration. One step that you'll have to take within your organization will be that you'll have to go out to Customer Partner Source and download the new companion app service or the updated companion app service.
Okay.
Get that updated on the server, enable your Excel content, but then from an end user standpoint, the next time, after the services are configured with the update, next time the user comes in, if they have the update, the Excel content will just start flowing in.
And so Kathy had a follow-up question. So MR for AX is available right now.
Correct.
And then could you restate the Excel availability situation for AX?
Okay, so from an AX perspective, Excel content will not be available in the R6 release. We are working with that team as far as what features and functionality they would want to add to their service. So when you look at the different ERPs each have their own service, which is good because then each ERP can designate what content they want to make available in the Business Analyzer app. So the services are really owned by each ERP, and it's up to that product group from each ERP to determine what content they want to make available. So at that point, it's just a matter of when the AX product team wants to pick up the Excel content, they update their service in order to pick up the content and make it available. But the application itself is enabled with Excel content if the service is passing it through.
Okay. So it's not going to be in R6 in a couple of weeks.
Correct.
But we're reviewing it with them for R7 release in
Correct.
July, but it's not for sure.
Correct.
Okay. Any plans for a non-Metro version for AX? Can I just say no?
Yes. No. Yes. No to you.
Correct.
Yes to no. Correct. Yeah.
No, we will not be doing a non-Metro version. We will be doing an iOS and Android version.
Correct. So kind of digging into the roadmap here a little bit, but so with the R7 release, looking at late June, early July time frame, is that will be the first time we're going across platforms. So we'll be available on the Windows Store and then also the Apple Store with Release 7. And then we don't have it in our timing yet, but obviously eventually we'll want to get to the Android platform as well. But our biggest asks from our customers has been iPad.
Okay. And I'm pretty sure I didn't overspeak. This could connect to any SQL database.
Ultimately, yes, but it depends on it just depends on the content that you're displaying. So it has to be an SRS report, for example. That SRS report can connect to any SQL database.
Right.
Correct.
Which is what I said earlier, and I didn't think I misspoke.
No, that's correct. Lots of good questions.
Okay, sorry, Nicolin. If your store is not connecting on Windows 8, I'm not exactly sure where to go to resolve that issue. That's usually, for me, it just means I don't have an internet connection, but you obviously have internet connection because you're on this call. So I don't really know how to.
In that case, I'll just hit on that one. It could be the market that they're in or their location.
Yep.
So it is more limited. Release 5 is, I don't remember all the countries, but I think there are 19 or 20 countries.
But their store just, it says its
store
is not
network.
connecting.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay, that's different.
So follow-up question by non-Metro, I meant Windows Desktop. So it is a Windows 8 app, Jonathan, and now with Windows 8.1, you can also pin that app to your desktop toolbar. But once you launch it, it's a Windows 8 app. We are not going to do a desktop-like looking app. It's a Windows 8 app. It will be. That's where we're going. So hopefully that answers that question. How about SSRS for AX, possibly someday? And that probably gets again to your what each product team is delivering as a service for Business Analyzer, and so I'm sure that the AX team is looking at that.
Correct.
And it's not currently on our roadmap.
Correct.
So we're wow, we're like at time. Let's just briefly bring up the roadmap again, Brian, and we'll just, I think I probably had some really massively interesting things to tell about the roadmap. So again, to cover over this, there are also more apps available than just Business Analyzer. So Business Analyzer is one of our app strategy for, again, multiple product lines. So right now there's one for CRM, which has CRM information. There are 3 apps available for Dynamics AX right now, along with Business Analyzer. And so, you know, this is part of a total strategy for us. This is not just a one and done type of an app strategy. So again, just to cover off what's going to be in the upcoming releases, R6, which is imminent, includes Excel content for GP. It includes, that's kind of the biggest thing that's coming with R6. With R7, there will be the management reporter support for GP, along with cross-platform on both Android and Apple devices. And then sort of down the road, additional apps being built for, these are Microsoft Dynamics GP apps, which include submit time, time cards, requisitions, etc., and those will be cross-platform shortly after they're released Windows 8 first. So as we kind of build out our strategy, we'll always do Windows 8 first, and then we'll continue to do the cross-platform pieces for these apps. So wow, lots of awesome questions probably still coming in. Jason, we'll stay on for as long as we can, but I'm assuming you want to give a little ending to this entire thing.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that you can stay and take some more questions, as I do see a few more coming in. Thanks for submitting so many questions, everyone. I do want to ask, as you when you do exit out of the session at the end here, please do look for the survey that'll pop up. It's 3 questions. We really appreciate your feedback. Our speakers always do as well. So please just be on the lookout for that. It should only take about 10 or 20 seconds to fill out. But yeah, let's allow Errol and Brian to get back to any other questions that came in here.
Great. So Eric asked, can we expect those later functions for GP with GP 2015? That is correct, Eric. That's when other apps will be available.
There was a comment, Paul made a comment, there was a question earlier about the AX cubes going against data warehouse or transactional database. Paul made a comment back that they're against the transactional database.
Okay, so it's not a warehouse.
Right.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Let's see, there was a question about, does Business Analyzer access CRM data? And the answer is sort of yes.
Yes.
Because through the SQL reporting services, if you're building SQL reporting services, charts, graphs, and KPIs, there's just a place where those need to reside. So, Brian, could you describe the place where those need to reside?
Sure. Let me. I'll talk to it. Basically, depending if you're doing native mode deployment or SharePoint mode, basically what you want to do, when we deploy our reports, we're looking for a company folder, and then under each company we have a series, so your sales, financial, purchasing type of thing. And then under your series folders, we have a folder called Charts and KPIs. And that's where you'd want to put your reports. So I'll put it in the response, so it's online. But essentially, if you look at the structure and how we deploy our reports for SQL, if you put it in that same structure, those reports that you create returning back to CRM data will show up and be available within reporting services. So that, or within Business Analyzer. So that goes back to that previous question as far as, what database can I connect to? It's really anything that you can connect to with reporting services or Excel will be available to, launch from Business Analyzer.
And I'm assuming the same is true for Excel. I mean, you can basically build your own Excel reports, and as long as they're placed in the right area, then you can surface them through Business Analyzer.
Correct.
Good, because that's what I answered. So again, the SSRS for AX possible someday. The question is, yes, definitely it could be available someday. It's up to that product team. So hey, if you really want that badly, I would suggest as you talk to that product team, put that in there, because it's not a limitation on the Business Analyzer app itself. It's a limitation on the app service that each of the products needs to provide. So, okay, I think we're pretty much getting caught up. And we've gotten questions on the presentation itself, Jason. So how are we going to distribute that?
Yeah, so the recording will be captured, and we'll send out a notification about when that is available. We'll also send out a link to the slides at that time, I guess, Errol, if you're going to provide those.
Yep.
We can make sure everyone sees that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there have been several questions on that, so we're happy to do that. And yeah, it looks like we're through the question queue here, so we can start to wrap up.
All right.
Well, yeah, let me say, Errol and Brian, thanks to both of you for taking the time today. We had a feeling this was going to be a popular session, and it looks like I was right on that. A ton of questions, a great showing from our attendees. So thanks for being a part of it.
All right, thank you.
All right, and thanks to everyone else still in the audience. Really appreciate you taking the time today. Please do look for that survey. Thanks, and have a great day.